Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Our lead story of the day, heck, our only story of the day, is yesterday's White House press briefing where reporters are pissed about the Biden administration's handling of this assessment that was released 10 minutes before this press briefing ever started. And this was a long-awaited assessment, folks. It was regarding the Afghanistan withdrawal. Now, if you read the document, almost half of it is blaming Donald Trump and his administration for the Afghanistan withdrawal that took place under the Biden administration. This is insane, folks, and the reporters push back here. They ask for accountability. Just watch the messaging coming out of this man's mouth, meaning John Kirby, for those that are listening on Audible or Podbean or podcast. Heck, you can find us anywhere and everywhere, which leads me into saying support a true American patriot by hitting that like and subscribe button. Leave us a short, sweet comment down below. You leaving a comment, folks, does yeoman's work in supporting the show. It basically forces the YouTube algorithm to send our videos out there to new viewers who haven't seen our content or our channel. So you are supporting the show, not just by watching it, but leaving a comment as well. Thank you so much. And with that being said, we got Ed O'Keefe here of CBS News, pissed, frustrated with the Biden administration's handling because they got this assessment 10 minutes before they stood on the podium and started taking questions. And you could hear it in his voice. His voice is shaky. He is mad. And just listen to his questions. This is kicking us off here.
So, John, thank you for doing this, but I think I speak on behalf of my colleagues in this room, and we want the record to reflect that this was sent to us about 10 minutes before the briefing began, with little notice, and it's the very definition of a modern major holiday news dump. You're releasing this at the beginning of the high holidays, and after months of requests from Republicans and the broader public. So why today? And is this all we get? And is this a response to the studies that were done by the agencies? Or is this considered a summary?
There's a lot there. This is the result of months and months of work by individual agencies who are participating in the withdrawal to voluntarily review that withdrawal, which they did. And they worked through that. These documents are classified. And we felt it was the responsible thing to do after those reviews were done to then run a process across the administration to take a look at those reviews ourselves across the interagency, work our way through it, and then provide them to the relevant committees and leaders on the Hill, which we did today. We think that was the responsible thing to do. And what you're seeing today is the result and the culmination of an awful lot of work, Ed. No effort here to try to obfuscate or try to bury something. It's an effort to try to be as open, as transparent as we can be. And what you got in that document there is a pretty fair summary of our perspectives of the work over those many months and pulling and collating a lot of those lessons learned together. And we're trying to present certainly the key lessons learned, the ones that we're able to share more openly and more publicly with you. And I'll tell you this, you got questions after the briefing today? I'll stay here as long as you want. You got questions after the briefing today? You know how to get a hold of me. We'll answer whatever you have.
I got two specific.
Ed will continue here, and we'll be sure to cover it. I would like to point out that I don't believe this administration whatsoever. How many times have we heard that, well, you know how to get a hold of me? Speaking about the classified documents, well, talk to this person. This person led them to another person. And then that other person led them to another person. They couldn't get any of their questions answered, and they were all frustrated about it. So now we're going into a holiday weekend here, which he's not going to be sitting at work probably. So they're not going to get any questions answered. Heck, they want to spend time with their families. They dropped this strategically, folks. They did this strategically. Just like Ed said, it's a cover-up, folks. They don't want people to talk about this. They know the news cycle is going to transition. Something's going to happen over the weekend where nobody's going to talk about this next week. So we all know what they're doing here. They're being strategic, but let's Ed continue.
Specific ones about what's in this document after a speed read here. On page 8, the President received and accepted the unanimous advice of his top national security officials to end the evacuation on August 31st. What is the definition of a top national security official? Because we know, for example, that General McKenzie, who was then head of CENTCOM, has said he objected to aspects of this. So what's the definition of a top national security official?
I am loath to get into the individual advice that individual members of the president's team give him. That would not be appropriate for me. But I can tell you, having lived through this as well at the Pentagon, that the president specifically asked his team should we extend past the 31st. He specifically asked them to go back and look and see what that would look like, because we had secured this additional time from the Taliban to the 31st of August. And the team did that. The team did that, Ed, not just at the highest levels of the Pentagon, from the Secretary to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs to General McKenzie, but even the operational commanders on the ground. And there were numerous flag and general officers on the ground at the airport. All of them took a fair look at the president's request and came back to him
Are they all top national security
and
officials?
said that it would not be advisable, given the high threat environment. Remember what also happened on the 26th, that attack at Abbey Gate? And then we had a very high temp between the 26th and the 30th, in which, of course, there was a kinetic strike taken in downtown Kabul. There was high temp. And so the advice of his senior national security team, all the way up to the senior levels of the Pentagon, advised him that the 31st was the appropriate date to end that evacuation.
There's 4
Not just about the date, not just about the evacuation date. Everybody in the intelligence community was wrong about this. And that's going to appear later in this press briefing, of which you guarantee your booties I'm going to cover. But it is amazing here. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. If you were to read the document itself, almost half of it is blaming Trump for all of this, which is insane.
pages here of blame on the previous administration, or this White House explanation of what the last White House did regarding Afghanistan. Nowhere in here does there appear to be any expression of accountability or mistake by either the president himself or others. Is there any for what happened?
Everybody, pause 1 second. Do you think Joe Biden's going to take any sort of responsibility here? Do you think John Kirby's just going to give a layup of an answer going, he takes responsibility of this, this, and this, and he's going to be absolutely specific? He might say, oh, sure, the president takes some sort of responsibility, and probably will word it all weird and everything like that. It's amazing that there was an entire assessment, and in the entire assessment, at no point does it mention Joe Biden's fault in there anywhere. And we've hounded this for 2 years. Joe Biden hasn't done a damn thing wrong as president. It's been everybody else. Zelensky, Xi, North Korea, Iran, illegal immigrants. Trump's the majority of it. It's Vladimir Putin. It's the Putin's price hike. It was this or that. I mean, it is everything and anything else's fault. Very similar to Hillary Clinton and the reason why she lost her presidency. It's anything and everything's fault other than the individual themselves.
I would argue that the very fact that we voluntarily, the agencies voluntarily decided to go conduct after-action reviews, nobody told them to do that. That wasn't legislated by Congress. They did that on their own. And the fact that they did that, and that we were now placing it on the Hill for Congress to look at, the fact that we digested and distilled some of the key points of that and gave it out in a public document, the fact that I'm up here talking to you about it, I think shows you how seriously that the president felt about learning lessons from this withdrawal. I would also point out to you that the work isn't over. So, number one, even before you got that document, some of those lessons were applied. I talked about Ethiopia. I talked about Ukraine. And number two, it's not like the work is all over. The president signed the legislation enabling the Afghan War Commission to be formed, and we're going to continue to work and cooperate with that. That's going to look at the whole 20 years. America's longest war deserves a lengthy review and lengthy study, and the president's committed to that.
The question was, does Joe Biden, the president of the United States, that woke up one morning and said, I think we should pull out of Afghanistan, does he take any responsibility for this? Didn't answer the question. But him standing on the podium, you guys, him standing on the podium is them somehow, shape, or form taking responsibility over an assessment that wasn't done by legislation. They weren't commanded to do it. They did it voluntarily, you guys. See, we should be so thankful and be kissing the feet of Joe Biden and the Biden administration for doing that. Amazing that there's no responsibility being taken, no accountability, which again, like I mentioned, will be brought up by Philip Wegman of Real Clear Politics, the Gladiator. And boy, oh boy, folks, wait till we get to Peter Doocy's question of Fox News, because John Kirby gets spicy with him. Wait till we get to that one. We got another reporter here for our second segment doing the same exact thing, questioning John Kirby on this document that was released 10 minutes before this press briefing. Everybody's trying to scramble, get their questions in, just trying to figure out what the hell is going on here. They're all reading through the BS and listening to the BS from this man, and they're calling him out for it.
Fill in the back. I'll
Thank you.
gotta go to the back. That summer before the withdrawal, there was a dissent channel cable that was written by 23 State Department officials there at the Kabul embassy, warning that the administration, in their view, was not prepared at that moment for the withdrawal. I'm curious, did this review take that dissent cable into account?
You'll have to talk to the State Department. The State Department conducted an after-action review that, and so did the DOD, and that's a question better put to them.
And then one specific.
Amazing, right? Amazing. I'll be up here as long as you need, Ed. I'll be up here as long as you guys want me to answer all your questions. You know where to find me. And literally, you have somebody sitting here giving you a freaking great question. You got to talk to somebody else. But hey, you know where to find me, and I'll be sure to reach out to you and give you the answers that you deserve, which I just got done mentioning when they did the same thing during the classified documents that were left everywhere around Joe Biden's home and everywhere else in the Biden-Pence Center. They did the exact same messaging of, hey, just contact us, talk to this person, talk to the White House counsel. The White House counsel will refer you to somebody else, and that person will refer you to somebody else, and you'll never get your questions answered. Same thing here. This is a cover-up, you guys.
Then for the president and this administration, I'm curious if there was a moment during the Afghanistan withdrawal that the president lost confidence in the assessments that were given to him by the intelligence community and lost confidence in the intelligence community itself, given that they failed to foresee how quickly the Taliban would advance and Kabul would fall.
The president knows how hard people work across the administration to try to give him the best information that they can. But it didn't stop him from asking. Throughout the entire withdrawal, he was constantly pulsing the national.
Hey, intelligence community really screwed up on this one, but didn't stop Joe from asking questions. I mean, the bar is so low for Joe Biden, it's insane. Well, it didn't stop the president from waking up and just looking at us and taking a big, deep breath because somebody told him to. He was there in the room with all of us. It makes me wonder if he was even the one that came up with these questions, or at some point somebody gave him a card to read in the room with the generals, with the intelligence community, whoever the hell was in there, just to tell them to read off of so that they could use it as ammo later on. Be like, well, he asked questions, you guys. He sat there and asked if he can have a break and nap time. He asked the questions. He got him in.
Security team about this or that assessment, and constantly challenging the thinking, constantly looking for ways to better understand what was going on the ground.
Laughable.
Some of the assessments that was produced, as I put in my opening statement, were proved out to be not correct. But
you think? But they turned out not to be correct. A lot of them didn't. I mean, what was correct, which you'll see him say, well, this was correct, this was correct. He'll kind of spin it in some way, shape, or form later, but a lot of it was wrong. Who's being held accountable here? Trump is supposedly. Again, this is Trump's fault if you're just tuning into us. Everything about the Afghanistan pullout, according to their assessment that they just gave everybody 10 minutes before the briefing, was all Donald Trump's fault. And we just got done listening to the answer about, hey, is Joe Biden going to take any sort of accountability for this or responsibility? Didn't even answer the question.
But, this was, an honest effort by everybody to try to get at the right outcome.
No one doubts that they weren't working hard, but their assessment was flawed, and they failed in that assessment. Has anyone been held accountable for giving the president a wrong view of how things were turning out on the ground?
I don't know how much intelligence.
Yes, Phil. God, that's why he's the gladiator, you guys. Yes, exactly. That's what everybody wants to know. Who's being fired for this? Where's the accountability? What's happening other than 12-page assessment or whatever that you're blaming Trump for?
You read or you get to look at every day, but let me tell you something. It's a mosaic. It's really hard. And I've yet to see an intelligence assessment that ever was 110% certain about something. They get paid to do the best they can, weaving in multiple sources of information, sometimes in real time, without even a lot of time to process, and they do the best they can. Do they always get it right? They'll be the first ones if they were up here to tell you they don't always get it right. And clearly we didn't get things right here with Afghanistan, about how fast the Taliban were moving across the country. I don't think we fully anticipated the degree to which they were constructing these deals in the hinterlands that kind of fell like dominoes. We didn't anticipate how fast the Afghan National Security Forces were going to fold. We're not going to fight for their country, particularly after we had, as I said, dedicated 20 years, trained and equipped them. I don't think we had.
I'm sorry, but even I know as a dude that's in his closet, that's a bunch of baloney. I had friends that went to Afghanistan and Iraq. We all know the stories of them on how they surrender so easily. There's literally footage on YouTube. Back then it was live leak as well that you could find of just these guys just giving up. Everybody knew that they were weak. You're telling me the intelligence community and our Pentagon or Department of Defense was like, oh, we really thought that they would kind of like, stand up for a good while and use all the equipment that we gave them. We really thought that they would just kind of have that backbone, that American ingenuity that we instilled in them in 20 years of training.
Fully appreciated the degree of corruption that was in the officer ranks in the military. I could go on and on and on. But it doesn't mean that people weren't trying and doing their best effort to understand that. But intelligence, getting it right every single time, man, that's a tough hill to climb. Doesn't mean that they don't try.
Well, it doesn't mean they don't try. The question wasn't about trying. He literally emphasized it for you after. It wasn't about hard work. Nobody's discrediting that they didn't put in hard work. The question was, who's taking responsibility and accountability for this debacle? And who you blame it on? Donald Trump, because he's orange and he's bad and he's mean and you don't like him. But it's nobody. Nobody's been fired for this, by the way. Nobody. But we'll continue here with more reporters pushing back on this whole debacle and reading between the lines, by the way, on the messaging that's coming out of this man's mouth, the messaging from the Biden administration, and their whole handling of releasing this thing.
Great, thank you. And John, thank you for being here. It seems like page after page, this places the blame on the previous administration, starting with page 1. President Biden's choices for how to execute a withdrawal from Afghanistan were severely constrained by conditions created by his predecessor.
Yeah.
Let me just follow up with you on something that Ed was asking, which is, does the president take responsibility for the withdrawal and everything that happened thereafter?
He's the commander-in-chief, and he absolutely has responsibility for the operations that our men and women conduct and the orders that he gives, and he continues to believe that the order to withdraw from Afghanistan was the right one. And if you
What? Okay, did you notice the wording there? He didn't say he takes responsibility for the withdrawal of Afghanistan, which the question was predicated all around because that's what they're analyzing right now is the assessment. He's doubling down. Hell, at this point, I guess it's quadruple or more down on this whole idea. He thought it was a good idea. They handled everything. It was flawless. It was great. It was perfect. There might have been some errors here. We might have gotten everything wrong, but, nope, it was a good decision. Oh, my God.
just look, Kristen, at what's happened since we pulled out of Afghanistan and see what the United States military has been better able to do on behalf of the American people, I think there's only one conclusion you can come to, and that it was the right decision.
Oh my God. I'm a big advocate of our military, okay? Look, I love America. You're not selling me nothing, man, okay? You're not selling me on this whatsoever. All you can do is laugh. It's such a joke. I was perfect. No, it was great. We don't take any responsibility. We'll blame it on Trump. We left them billions of dollars of military grade equipment that's now left to a whole nother organization. You got a whole terrorist organization running roughshod over the entire country. You got women being gang raped. Sharia law's back in effect. You can't have women do anything over there. Hey, but our military is able to support the American citizens in a better and more efficient way. As to how, I'm not really sure. Because I'm just seeing billions of dollars being sent to other countries rather than taking care of our ish that we need to take care of here. I see reports of 123 to 128 known terrorists in our country that are utilizing the inflow of the open borders down there at our southern border. And that's the known terrorists, by the way. That's not the gotaways that we don't know about. So you could possibly be looking at 200 or more terrorist sleeper cells in our country right now that are threatening America, but the Biden administration does everything flawless, and that's all Trump's fault too, by the way. Everything you're seeing at the border, all Trump's fault. Just in the same way the Afghanistan thing was all Trump's fault.
You list the things that could have been...
But wait, before I answer, but you need to remember, and I get the question about the previous administration. You got to look at when he came into office, what he was walking into. He didn't negotiate with the Taliban. He didn't invite the Taliban to Camp David. He didn't release 5,000 prisoners. He didn't reduce force levels in Afghanistan to 2,500. And he didn't have an arrangement with the Taliban that they won't attack our troops. He came in with a certain set of circumstances. He had no ability to change. He had to deal with it based on what he inherited.
That is bullcrap. You're going to tell me the strongest military that mankind, human civilization has ever seen is going to sit there and cater to the Taliban that still use like mortars and pestles to build with? Really? They're still building out of clay and sand? This is not to be literal, right? This is a joke, but you understand what I'm saying. Really? We're supposed to believe that Joe Biden couldn't sit there and force of hand and tell them, no, I'm sorry, this is what we're going to do. I'm the guy in charge now. It just shows you how weak Joe Biden is, that literally some dude in a hut is going to sit there and outbid or out negotiate Joe Biden and tell Joe Biden what to do. But Joe Biden's going to look at Donald Trump during the campaign trail and be like, China's going to eat your lunch, man. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Let me roll into some other story about it's not true. But China's going to eat your lunch. No, the Taliban ain't your lunch, bro. All right? You can't negotiate anything. You're driving this country so far into the ground, it's head spinning.
Months to plan, did he not?
He had to take 8 months to plan because whatever plans there might have been done by the previous administration, we didn't see. And it was not apparent that there was a lot of planning done. So, yes, he took some time to work through that. I don't think he could be blamed for that. In fact, he enabled and was able to secure from the Taliban extra time on the clock because by May 1st, you might remember, they were going to come in guns a-blazing. Hang on a second.
Wow.
I'll get to you.
I mean, you could see all the reporters just trying to get in, trying to interject because it is asinine and ridiculous, the messaging that this guy's pushing here. I mean, he is trying to sell you hard on this whole idea that this was good. They did it in a correct way. Yeah, there were some errors on it, but Joe Biden was correct. I mean, am I the only one seeing this? Let me know in the live chat right now. Am I the only one that's seeing this BS happening in real time and trying his best to sell you on something that they did wrong?
They were going to come in guns a-blazing on May 1st. He got us till the end of August so that we could do, I mentioned that in my opening statement, proper planning that accounted for high-risk scenarios and probabilities that we hadn't thought of before.
That worked
so
out
that
well.
He could get military forces pre-positioned in the region so that if we had to go in and conduct an evacuation, they could do that. And you know how fast they got there? 48 hours.
Oh my gosh. 48 hours, guys, because we did all this planning and got everything wrong. 48 hours. Oh my goodness. Wow. Please don't feel like I'm like diminishing our military. Please don't feel like I'm diminishing that idea of 48 hours. I do think that's great. But in the totality, in the mosaic of what John Kirby's talking about, really? This is the best you got? Is the time that it took to get there was 48 hours?
When we ordered a NEO, a non-combatant evacuation, because he put them there and he had to have time to do that.
Wow.
Does the president believe, what mistakes does the president believe he made?
I'm not going to speak for the president on that score. What I can tell you is...
Oh my God! Hey, you basically blasted Trump and you made a lot of mistakes. What did Joe Biden do wrong? I'm not going to answer that one.
That, again, we've done a good faith effort here to work through the lessons learned of this withdrawal. And we've already started to apply those lessons. The president ran a very inclusive, very rigorous, very flexible process that was responsive, as I said, to the views of operational commanders on the ground. He repeatedly asked for and received assessments almost every day about what was going on, and acted in accordance with the best judgment of his advisors, particularly military advisors, as things were unfolding.
John, just finally, given the enormity...
So who's going to be fired over all this? That's the question, right? At the end of the day, who's going to be let go? Because Joe Biden's not going to take accountability, of which, in some way, shape, or form, John Kirby's trying to make it seem like he is going to take accountability. So who is going to be fired? And we saved the best for last because we got Peter Doocy of Fox News questioning John Kirby here. And John Kirby ain't liking it, folks. I haven't seen John Kirby get this frustrated or maybe mad ever. So let's go ahead and roll it.
Thanks. John, who's going to get fired over this?
Peter, the purpose of the document that we're putting out today is to sort of collate the chief reviews and findings of the agencies that did after-action reviews.
You see, Peter, nobody's going to be fired over this. The president's not going to take responsibility. He's going to blame it on Donald Trump, which is in the assessment within itself. And, everybody else gets to keep their job over the shenanigans and whole debacle and terrible withdrawal that happened in Afghanistan, where Americans died and you had people falling from planes and children dying as well. Nobody's going to get fired. Everybody keeps their jobs. And you know what, Peter? On top of that, they probably got promotions. They actually probably got a pay increase after all this.
It's not, the purpose of it is not accountability. The purpose of it is
Military leaders.
Purpose
giving
of it
advice.
is
Doesn't
to
sound like
study
it was good.
lesson
You admit
learned.
that the intel was bad. So how can President Biden ever trust when they come into the Oval Office with the PDB that anything in there is legit?
What I said was,
That intelligence is a mosaic. What if the mosaic, all the pieces are incorrect?
what I said was,
You might sit back and think, that's a little bit extreme, that all the pieces of the mosaic, the holistic view was wrong. Not in this case. I mean, basically what Peter's bringing up is correct. You got pretty much everything wrong. It wasn't like this little piece, if we were to zoom in on mosaic here or the collage here, that you would have gotten right. It was all the pieces you got, the whole story that was pictured here, the whole holistic view, the mosaic, the collage was wrong. It's a great question.
intelligence is hard business.
Oh, it's
and
hard.
they get it right a lot too.
Oh.
There were some pieces here that weren't accurate. And we're being nothing but honest with you and the American people about what those inaccuracies were and how they shaped some of the decision making that was
Really? Really? We're going to be honest with you guys. Oh, yeah. Hey, John, does the president take any responsibility? Doesn't answer the question, but he's going to be here all weekend for you guys right before the holiday weekend here. Hey, John, does Joe Biden think he did anything wrong? Like, can you give us a list of things that he thought he messed up on? I'm not going to answer that one. But we're being honest with all of you, and we're bringing you the top level information that you need on this. Uh-huh.
laid before the president and the questions that he asked. This document and this effort isn't about accountability today. It's about understanding. And I would also add that as I said to Ed, the review process isn't over. This is the next muscle movement in what will be a long process to better understand and comprehend and adjust to what we learned and what we did in Afghanistan.
But it doesn't seem like after the country has had a couple months to review this, and as the government has, people don't have an issue with the decision to order troops out of Afghanistan. It is with the way that this president ordered it done. There were children being killed. There were people hanging off of Air Force jets that were leaving, and you're saying that you guys are proud of the way that this mission was conducted?
It doesn't
Proud
mean
of that?
proud of the fact that we got more than 124,000 people safely out of Afghanistan? You bet. Proud of the fact that American troops were able to seize control of a defunct airport and get it operational in 48 hours? You bet. Proud of the fact that we now have about 100,000 Afghans, our former allies and partners, living in this country and working towards citizenship? You bet. Does that mean that everything went perfect in that evacuation? Of course not. I've talked about it from a different.
Does that mean our troops got blown up? Sure. Does that mean that we just gave the entire country to the Taliban that's still beheading people, beheading Christians, right? Sitting there gang raping women, Sharia laws in effect. The country's just completely and utterly crippled. You had people falling from jets. You had people in the wheel wells. But no, yeah, you're right, John. Yeah, peddled this up. Oh, we did this right. We did this right. We took over an airbase in 48 hours. Ooh, like we're supposed to be impressed by that. I'm not impressed by that, John. Okay, I know our military. I know our capabilities. We literally took out the third strongest military in the world that's ever existed in a freaking week in the Gulf War, John. And you're going to sit there and push us that we're supposed to be excited that our military took over a freaking airbase in the middle of a desert? I'm supposed to be like, woo! No, John. So you get a little bit pissed here because Peter Doocy brings up your guys' flaws and the way you handled this whole thing, and you're blaming it on the Donald Trump administration for the handling of your debacle and the president that was voted in by the Democrat Party, because this ain't working up here. Because the head's not working, the body under it ain't working, and our military is moved by the head. The head was in control. The head don't know what's going on. And so now you're trying to cover up for the cognitive disability that is going on with this president. People had to die for it. And now you're going to sit there and grandstand, look what we did for all these other people. Give me a break.
podium. The after action reviews are now being reviewed by members of Congress, which will lay out things that could have gone better. Nobody's saying that everything was perfect, but there was a lot that went right. And a lot of Afghans are now living better lives in this country and other countries around the world because of the sacrifices and the work of so many American government officials. So yeah, there's a lot to be proud of, Peter.
Insane messaging from this Biden administration. But should we expect, honest to God, anything different here? To sell you on something that is BS in the same way that they're selling you on the fact that the border is just a situation, you guys. 5+ million people that we only know about have poured across the border. And who are they blaming? Donald Trump. Gas prices go through the roof. Who are they blaming? Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. Inflation, 40-year high, 4 decades. I hadn't even seen it in my lifetime. Who are they blaming that on, you guys? Just tell me. Orange bad man band, Donald Trump. Everything is Trump's fault. The media are picking up on this. They're seeing what is behind the curtain, and now it's out there in the open with this Trump indictment. The left sees it. Now the leftist media even see it. They're being called out here in these briefings for it. That is why we cover these briefings, you guys. I know sometimes we get tired of it. I know sometimes they don't answer the questions, but it is so important to cover because these are the mouthpieces of the administration because Joe Biden can't even talk. He's not going to stand up there. I think we have to come to terms that Joe Biden and his presidency, his entire presidency, is never going to stand on that podium and take unvetted questions from the press. We've already accepted that. But you know what? They haven't accepted that the guy sucks. Democrats have not accepted that Joe Biden is a terrible president, that he's done everything wrong. But according to John Kirby, it was done correctly, that Joe Biden has no regrets. If they were to do it, they would do it all over again, except maybe a couple little things. Insane messaging. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Bald Brad Show. Please support us by hitting that like and subscribe button. If you haven't gone to our link down below and purchased our book, paperback, hardcover, Kindle version, folks, How the Left is Destroying America. Hell, we just went over a few examples. The book does a great job of exposing the Democrat Party and progressive left on how they're destroying this country from the inside out. Support an American patriot by buying a copy. Head over to baldbrad.com, pick yourself up a mug. Pick yourself up some merch, some shirts, some hats. We got it all for you, folks. And we will be back here this weekend for another episode of Bald Brad Show.